You're listening to the Daily Sales Tips podcast, and I'm your host, Scott Ingram. Today's tip comes from a guy who I don't have to work very hard to hold accountable to provide a new sales tip every single week. Here's Jeff Bajorek.
As a top performer, you likely have a love-hate relationship with the word accountability. Some of you recognize it as being very valuable. Others, well, for you, it's a little too close to micromanagement. And when you think back on some of the leaders that you've had in the past, some of the people you've worked for in the past, there have been some who have held you accountable and made you feel really good about what you could do. There have been others who have looked down on you and made sure that you were doing what you needed to right now instead of looking at what you could become. And then there were some others kind of in between, really didn't think much about accountability, and those probably weren't very effective leaders. Actually, neither of those last two were probably effective leaders. But I want you to disassociate accountability from micromanagement because they're two very different things. Now, I've talked about this before. I don't want to rehash that daily sales tip. You can go back and you can find it. What I want to encourage you to do is find someone who will hold you accountable. Now, when I was a top performer, when I was the number one rep in my organization, I recognized that I performed better when I knew I had someone to answer to. And it wasn't that they were making sure I was doing my job. It was that they were making sure that I said that I was going to do what I knew I could do, what I was capable of doing. That was tremendously helpful. Sometimes it was my manager. Sometimes it was another colleague, another member of my team. So what I want you to do is disassociate yourself from all the bad feelings you have about accountability. This should make you a little bit uncomfortable because that accountability is going to help you achieve what you know you can, but you know you're not doing just yet. That's very, very important. But I want you to seek out an accountability partner who's going to support you, maybe one that you can support. Maybe you find someone on your team. Maybe you find someone who's a friend of yours that you used to work together with, and now you work in different organizations. I want you to find someone you can meet with regularly, just to have someone to answer to, someone to say, hey, Jeff, did you do that thing that you said you were going to do? Because you said you were going to do it. I know you're capable of it. That is sometimes all you need in order to take that next step. And yes, I hated filling out call reports. And yes, I hated having to make an additional phone call. And yes, it felt like, hey, can't you just trust me and leave me alone to do what I need to do? Accountability is a huge part of trust. Your accountability partner is trusting that you are going to do that by the time you said you were going to do it. And then they check in on you because they support you and they want to make sure that you have lived up to the promise you made. That's trust. So think about accountability a little bit differently. Seek out accountability whenever you can and help yourself achieve your best performance.
For more from Jeff Bajorek, just click over to DailySales.Tips/826, and we'll have links for you there. Once you've done that, be sure to come back tomorrow for another great sales tip. Thanks for listening.